down, you need to have enough green wards so that you know if you're getting counter-ganked, so that you can do a gank where you flash ult them, and then TF comes in and Shen comes in, and then you kill both of them from just having 2 global ults and being able to send 4 bot at a time while your jungler holds top or mid. And then after that sort of gank, you can go for a dragon, which is why global ults are so powerful. You want to get an exhaust down onto Draven earlier than that. So that ult was okay, but then you didn't exhaust afterwards. And Ezreal's probably dead now. Yeah, so if you had been farther up, a Q and a power chord would have killed Draven right there. He was a one-shot with Q power chord after he killed Ezreal. So if you're just closer in auto attack range, you still have your flask stacks. I don't know if you forgot about them or you decided that you don't want to use them, but since you're going back to base soon anyway, you might as well take your flask. And yeah, like, it's pretty hard to learn how to exhaust properly, because frequently by the time that you know that you need to exhaust, it's already too late to exhaust. But in that case, the ult was good for disengage. And then Ezreal could have gotten a little bit more damage off. Like, there was somewhat of a miscommunication because he was Eing out as you were ulting. And if instead he'd gotten some auto attacks on during the duration of their stun, then you would have had a much better chance of winning the fight. Let's see, you have 600 gold, so that's enough where you could have sold one of your pots and upgraded to a ruby side stone if you had gone back just now. I think you got 4 creeps worth of XP by staying, and that's not really worth it. When instead you could have gotten 180 health plus an extra ward at a time.
Godlike. Shut down.
If you were going to use a ward to check that bush, you could have warded it from slightly farther away. And you should really be trying to go in at the same time as that goes in. You could have gotten an exhaust down on Draven, and that would have been enough of a slow that it's likely that you would have been able to get the kill on him. But as I was saying about your ult earlier, basically there's 2 things that you can do with your ult. One of them is that, and this goes for CC in general, not just Sona's ult, you can stop them from doing damage to you because they're stunned, and you can also allow your team to do damage to them because they're stunned. So the most efficient use of your ult is to be able to do both of them. So just then you're using your ult to stop them from being able to do damage to you. But it's best if you also are able to damage them. This ward can be exactly here. You put it exactly in between the 2 signposts, and then it can see the entirety of the pit, and then it can also see into river. So right now this ward isn't... Yeah, so right now this ward isn't seeing that much into river, and you'd really like to be able to see more than that. So just put the ward right here, and then you're going to have a lot more vision from it. And that's what you do if you have a pink ward. If you have a green ward, you can either try to hide it sort of behind this rock, so that if they put their ward out farther into river so that they get vision of the river, then they can't see your green ward, or you can put your green ward in the middle of the river so that you can see more of river. But if you want a pink ward and you're doing the pink ward in order to get vision of dragon, you want to put it right here so that you can see in the back of the pit if they try to sneak a ward over or something while you're doing it. But honestly, you don't really have enough dragon control that a pink ward is necessarily worth it at dragon, and I'd probably just put the ward in the middle of the river so that you can get more vision on it. And while nothing is happening like this, you're just sort of sitting in the middle of lane providing an aura to Twisted Fate. He can push the creeps, no problem. And you guys weren't engaging because Ezreal is in base. If you're banking a lot of money and the situation is like that, that's a really good time to go back and buy items. You're banking a lot right now, and you can definitely get a Ruby Side Stone, which is going to make you able to survive a lot more in the next team fight. and I would ward this bush before checking it. And I drop a ward in it anyway, even though you guys are there right now. It'll just help you get more vision, because right now you don't really have very much vision of this entire area that you're trying to gank. And TF probably should have ulted to get vision of everyone. If you're gonna flash away from someone like that, try to flash over the wall. You're dead to his bleed anyway, but you flashed from being in his auto attack range to still pretty much just being in his auto attack range. Whereas if you'd flashed over the wall, he would have lost vision of you. And then if you were any other carry other than Draven, you wouldn't have died to an overpowered damage over time, so you would have been able to get away. And also you didn't use your exhaust at all there. Just try to get an exhaust down on someone who's scary within your exhaust range before you die. Basically any time that you die and there's an extended team fight, just make sure that you get your exhaust off before you die. That goes for level 1 fights in lane. When you're fighting a 2 versus 2 at level 1, it goes for level 18 5 versus 5 team fights. And you shouldn't be the first one to die in level 18 5 versus 5 team fights, but like in case they focus you for some reason, just make sure that you get an exhaust off like that. Again, your team is far enough behind at this point that it's unlikely that you're going to be able to win a team fight because of doing something like that, just because they have so many more items than you do, but it's still something that you should just be aware of and something that you should do. And you're spending a really long time in base right now. I don't really know what you're waiting for, but you should try to get out of base as soon as possible. Whenever you spawn, just buy your items when you die. So, like, if they can see your corpse, if they have vision of your corpse, and you want to hide the items that you're buying for some reason, then you should wait until you respawn to buy your items. But if you don't want to do that, then just buy your items while you're dead, so that you can get out of base as soon as possible. And there's no reason to not put an Eora down when you're leaving base, just to get around the map faster. And so right now, everyone's top. I would really be heading to the top side of the map, because Ezreal can just push this tower by himself. Excuse me, you're not going to be able to help him that much by also being in bot, and you're really just trying to save towers. You can't save the outer tower, but maybe you can save the inner turret. So, like, it's nice that you're getting this dragon, but, like, Twisted Fate should be helping top, you should be helping top. Taking this dragon isn't really going to help you as much as saving your towers is going to help. So for items, these are okay items. You're probably gonna want to get an Aegis really fast, because you can't really do much to avoid engages or to engage with Australias. Right now you're just trying to not die, so an Aegis is very cost efficient defense for your team. Yeah, that's a good ult, but no one really responded. So like if TF had ulted in at the same time, just try to get those auto attacks off. Alright, and again, if you had exhausted, like if immediately after your ult had ended you had exhausted Draven, then Shen might have been able to live. He ulted to you instead of ulting to Twisted Fate or something, so that was kind of bad that he was just going to stay there with his ult, but he almost certainly would have gotten the entire channel off if you had exhausted Draven, because it reduces damage by so much. So the ult was likely to save his life, but you really needed to exhaust afterwards. Well, the ult plus exhaust was likely to save his life, but you really needed both to happen. And really, Twisted Fate should have been responding. And again, there were no pings on the map, so you notice it happening, you ping it so that your teammates are aware that it's going on, and they're more likely to respond, because it's likely that Twisted Fate didn't even notice that was going on the minimap, or he probably would have responded. There is no real reason for that E. It's better to have it's better to have an offensive or defensive aura if there's not much kiting going on. So if you're just taking a lot of damage and no one's really doing damage, leave a W aura on. If your team is doing damage and taking damage, leave whichever aura on that you've leveled further. And if your team is doing damage and not taking much damage, then put a Q aura on is a general rule of thumb that you can follow. Azrael doesn't really have enough damage right now to be able to kill anyone, even if Shin taunts them. But again, don't spend this long in base. Yeah, Kindle Drum is a good purchase if you want to go for the Shelias. I would have just tried to get as tanky as possible right now, because the only thing that's gonna be able to save your team is if you just don't die, and you're not gonna be able to win fights for a really long time. You're just trying not to die. This bush you can actually ward from over the wall. You don't need to go and face check it, and also you already know where they all are. So, I guess Wukong could be waiting there. Yeah, and that ult wasn't so good because Ezreal was at basically 0 HP. They weren't actively diving you, so your team wasn't able to deal damage to them because Ezreal was going back. And also they weren't dealing damage to you. So that would have been a good ult if they were doing damage to you, or if Ezreal was full HP and you could actually engage on them from that. But since Ezreal had no HP and was going back to base, it wasn't actually a very good ult. Okay, so this game is basically over. In lane, you needed to do a lot more auto attacking, and a lot more wards needed to be placed. But in order to place those wards, you guys needed to go back to base more. So just try to encourage your AD carry to go back to base when you need to buy wards. If he refuses to do that, try to get your jungler or your mid lane to give you wards. If neither of those are willing to happen, then just go back to your base yourself if you need to. And there were definitely times when the two of you were exactly as zoned as he would be if he was alone in lane, so there wasn't really any reason for you to also be there. So you could have just gone back to base even if he didn't want to, and gotten the wards so that you were able to lane in a safe position. So yeah, I'll watch your Leona game and then I will do commentary on that in about an hour.